Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and today we're going to continue with our Gita Mahatmya series. This is episode 6. We're going to be discussing the special power of chapter 6 of the Bhagavad-gita. Now remember, this is from the Padma Purana and it's a conversation between Lord Vishnu and Lakshmidevi. So Lord Vishnu is explaining to Lakshmidevi the power of the Bhagavad-gita. Now interestingly, this is the last one where Vishnu is explaining to Lakshmidevi, and then from then on, Lord Shiva, because this is Lord Shiva talking to Parvati, citing this conversation between Lord Vishnu and Lakshmidevi. But from chapter 7 onwards, it's just going to be Lord Shiva talking to Parvati from his own recollection and not citing Lord Vishnu. So this is the last one that Lord Vishnu specifically says. So here we go. Shri Vishnu said, "Now I will tell you the glories of the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. Whoever reads this description will be liberated from the material world." So now even just hearing the description will grant you liberation. So he's already giving us the blessing right away. So here's the story. On the banks of the Giridhari river, there's a beautiful town called Pratishtanpur, where I am famous by the name of Pipalish. In that town, there was a king called Janshruti, whom the people loved very much and whose qualities were unlimited. So we're going to hear about this king this is like a classic Vedic king. You know, there's always these stories of these wonderful kings in the ancient stories, in the Vedas and the Puranas. So this is one of those super good kings. So this king has got it all. So he performed daily fire yajnas, fire sacrifices, which were so opulent and large that the smoke from them reached a heavenly pleasure garden known as Nandavan, and made the leaves of the Kalpavriksha trees black. Those trees appeared as if they were offering their respects to King Janashruti. Due to pious activities of that great king, demigods always resided in Pratishtanpur. So this king, this is a classic Vedic religion thing. So the popular Vedic religion, not yoga, not transcendence, not spirituality, but the common Vedic religion was the religion of doing yajnas. So you would do these fire sacrifices, doing offerings to the demigods, to the nature gods. And doing that, you would accumulate great good karma. So you'd accumulate lots of power and karma. All these good things would come from it. So all these kings, they would do lots of Vedic sacrifices because you're thinking, I've got this good karma, I'm going to get more and more good karma. And this would bring blessings to the city, to the town, to the king. So all these things would come from these fire sacrifices. Now, mind you, this is not spirituality. And Krishna, of course, in the spiritual text, in the yoga text, they'll be saying, like, forget those things. You know, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, don't pay heed to those flowery words of the Vedas promising all those things. Forget all that, because this is more important. Spirituality is much more important. But he's into that. He's like an excellent king in the material sense, in mundane, very pious, kind, and he's doing his fire yagas and accumulating tons of good karma. When Janshruti would give charity, he would distribute just as the clouds distribute the rain. So that's the other thing the kings would do. They would do the fire yajnas and they would give charity. So you see this in the Puranas. They'd have days. It would be like, okay, next, everybody can just come here and ask me anything. So people would just line up. The king would sit there and people could just ask anything. And so in the Puranas, they have these stories, people could just like ask for their heads. It's like, okay, here's my head. I would just like kill myself and give you my head. You could ask for anything. So people would come and ask for anything. They would, so of course they would tend to be nice and not ask for too crazy things. But so people would just come, so they would give tons of charity. So giving tons of charity and doing the fire yajnas, that makes a king super good. Due to Janshruti's pure religious activities, the stuff he was doing there, rain always comes. It came at the right time, and the fields were always full of crops. So the idea was like, if you do all these yagas, you get rain, you get great crops, and everybody's happy. Which were not disturbed by the 6 types of rodents. He was always digging wells. That's the other thing as well, digging wells. So it was charity, digging wells, fire, yajnas. This is like a list of all the nice things people can do for the population. And lakes for the welfares of the citizens. The demigods, being very pleased with Janashruti, went to his palace in the form of swans to bless him. So the demigods, they're liking this. They think this is great. So they're coming to bless him, but in the form of swans. So they're being a little discreet about it. So here the demigods are flying. They were flying through the sky, one behind the other, talking to each other. Bhadrashva, along with 2 or 3 other swans. So Bhadrashva is the son of Lord of Dharma, of Dharmaraj, of Yamaraj. So Bhadrashva is the son of Dharma. So he's like one of the demigods. And so he's flying with 2 other 3, and he's flying in front. At that moment, the other swans addressed Bhadrashva. "Oh, brother, why are you flying ahead? Do you not see in front of you the great king Janashruti, who is so powerful that he can burn up his enemies by his desire?" When Bhadrashva heard these words of the other swans, he started to laugh and said, "Oh, brothers, is this king Janashruti as powerful as the great sage Raikwa?" So they're all thinking like, oh, we're just going to go visit this great, human leader, because they had this like, these are like human emperors. These were like a single emperor of like the whole planet. These were like these Vedic kings where like they achieved this emperor position, and of course civilization was limited on Earth, thousands of years ago. So they were like the emperor of the world. And so he's like, what? This guy's got so much good karma, he can destroy his enemies just by his desire. He's so much punya accumulated. He's flying right through them. So he says, so then Bhadrashva says, oh, what? Do you think this guy has more power than this sage Raikwa? They're like, who? The sage who? When the king heard the words of the swan, so the king overheard this, his spies, he figured out, like, what? Like, what are these demigods saying? That there's this sage Raikwa who's better than me, is more powerful? Like, I have to check this out. I have to know what's going on. When the king heard the words of the swans, he immediately came down from the roof of his high palace and happily sat on his throne. At that time, he called his chariot driver and instructed him to go and find the great sage Raikwa. So like he says, the chariot driver was like his guy. It's like, look, you got to find this person. Tell me what's going on. When the chariot driver called Maha heard this king's instructions, he became very happy, and he left immediately to search out Raikwa. First, he traveled to Kashipuri, where Sri Vishwanath resides, for the welfare of all beings. Next, he went to Gaya, where the lotus-eyed Sri Gadadhar, who is capable of freeing all beings from bondage of birth and death, stays. After having traveled to many holy places, he came to Mathura. So he finally arrived at Mathura, which is capable of destroying all sins, because Mathura, of course, is very important. That's where Krishna appeared. So Mathura is most important holy place. In this place, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, resides. Of all of the great sages, demigods, also the Vedas and other Shastras in their personal forms perform austerities and render service to Sri Krishna. Mathura, which is on the shape of a half moon, and is situated in the bank of the beautiful devotion-giving river Jamuna, which unfortunately is disgustingly polluted these days. It's a real travesty to see what's happening with the Jamuna these days. There's campaigns, there are people trying to clean it up, but it's really horrific what they've done with the Jamuna River. It's such a holy river. It's so important. It goes through Mathura, Vrindavan. Krishna played in it, and now it's like just covered in toxic foam. It's this really a tragedy. If you can help out, check it out, look it up, and see if you can help. In that area is the beautiful Govardhan Hill, which adds to the splendor of the glory of Mathura Mandala like a large jewel in a crown. So of course, Govardhan Hill, very important. These are all things from Krishna's Leelas. You know, my name, Giridhari, is the name of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Giri is hill, mountain, and Krishna lifted it, Dhara, held it up, so Giridhari. So that's what it comes from. I gave the name Govardhan to my son as well. My son is called Govardhan. It is surrounded by pure trees and creepers. There are 12 wonderful forests surrounding Mathura in which Shri Krishna enjoys his Leelas. Of course, the famous 12 forests of Vrindavan. But this is a different topic. Okay, so now back to the story. After leaving Mathura, Maha traveled to the west and then to the north. One day he came to a town known as Kashmir, in which he saw a very large and shining white palace. At that place, all the people, even the foolish people, looked as beautiful demigods due to the fact that many sacrificial fires were burning continuously. So this is another very pious region, and so everybody's looking very nice, everybody's very prosperous, because also they're doing lots of yajnas, there are lots of fire yajnas. It looked as if a row of clouds always hung over the town because of so many fire of yajnas. The deity of Sri Shiva, known as Manikeshwara, resided in that town. The king of Kashmir had just returned from defeating many kings and was engaged in worshipping Sri Shiva. Due to his great devotion to Sri Shiva, that king was known as Manikeshwar. Just close to the door of the temple, sitting in a small cart, underneath a tree, Maha saw the great sage Raikva. So he finally found Raikva just sitting under a tree on a cart. When he recognized Raikva from the description of Janashruti, he immediately fell at his feet and inquired from him, "O great sage, where do you live? And what is your full name? You are such a highly elevated person. Why are you sitting in this place?" When Raikva heard the words of Maha, he thought for some time and then replied, "I am fully satisfied. I do not require anything." So this is an example of how yogis could read minds. So like all this Maha's like, this guy just wants to offer me something for something. I'm not interested. I'm happy here just sitting under this tree meditating on Krishna. So he's like, no, I'm okay, thank you. I don't need anything from you. Kind of like, it's a nice way of saying, go away, leave me alone. When Maha heard this reply, in his heart he could understand everything. So Maha was smart, so I was like, oh, okay, I got it. He immediately left on the long journey back to Pratishtanpur. When he reached his destination, he immediately went and offered his respects to the king, and with folded hands informed the king of all the events. After the king had heard everything from Maha, he decided to leave at once to take the darshan of the great sage Raikva. So he knew, like, oh, I better just go to this sage, let's see what's going on. So these kings, so that's the other great thing about these kings. So these great Raja Rishis, they would be doing all these, following all the rules, of the mundane prescriptions for kings. So doing the fire yagas, doing the wells and the charity, but they were also looking always for instruction from great sages. So they would really appreciate, like, oh, there's a great sage. They would rush over there. They're like, oh, I have to meet this person. I have to offer my obeisances, get some blessings. So they would want this. It was a very nice culture of respect and wanting instruction. So he went straight out. He just like, okay, we have to go now. You found him, so let's just go immediately. So he went. So sitting to take darshan of the great sage. So sitting in a beautiful chariot and taking with him many valuable gifts, he left for Kashmir. When he reached the place where the sage Raikva was staying, he fell at his feet and placed all the valuable silks and jewels which he had brought before Raikva. So he immediately got there and he brought all these nice presents and put it at his feet, which wasn't a great idea. Then the great sage Raikwa became very angry. It's like this king comes and puts all this stuff. It's like, what? Like, what? He's trying to buy me off. What is this? Like, I don't need this stuff. I don't need jewels and silks. I'm just, I'm doing my thing here. So you made the mistake of giving something that somebody doesn't want. Whenever you want to give someone, you want to please someone, you have to find out what they actually want first. Otherwise, you may offend them. You may offer the wrong thing. For example, people sometimes try to, I remember people bringing me like wine or something. It's like, no, I don't drink. Like, why, don't bring me wine. It's like, this is an inconvenience, It's like kind of almost offensive. I know you're trying to be nice, but don't bring me something that is not my thing, So you have to find out what the person actually wants. And of course, that sage was a renowned sage. He did not want a whole bunch of jewels and silk. So he was angry. "O foolish king, you take all these useless things and put them in your chariot and leave this place." Like that was a bad start. The king immediately, with great devotion, fell at the feet of Raikwa and begged for his forgiveness, asking him to be merciful upon him. So he is like, no, please, I'm so sorry. And so he tried to get on his good side again. He inquired from Raikwa, "O sage, how have you attained such a high state of renunciation and devotion?" So like, now he finally gets to the question. So that's what you want. You go to a wise person, and what you want to do is be, respectful and ask good questions. Guru, disciple, asking questions, getting good answers, and that's how you become enlightened. Okay, becoming pleased with the king's submissive attitude, so that worked. Raikwa replied, "Daily I recite the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita." That's it. That was Raikwa's answer. That's what I do. I recite the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. I don't need jewels and, you got all your stuff. I've got what I wanted. I've got everything, which is more than you have, which is better than everything you have, just by reciting the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. And by the way, guys, the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita is really, really awesome. It's one of my favorite chapters. If there can be such a thing as a favorite chapter, that one must be at the top. It's got amazing verses, incredible verses. So make sure you do check out the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, because it is actually very powerful. It comes at the end of the block of the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad-gita. You can divide the Gita in 3 blocks of 6 chapters each. So the 6th chapter is the last one of the first block. It's the last one explaining the different paths of yoga, and explains dhyana yoga, the yoga meditation, and then it ends with, directing us towards bhakti. Amazing stuff. Okay, so that was his answer. I recite the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. After that, King Janashruti heard from Raikwa the 6th chapter, so then he's like, okay, can just, let me hear it. You have to remember, these people did not have Google. They could not access, they couldn't go to a bookstore and buy Bhagavad-gita. There wasn't like a YouTube channel with some Giridhari giving like Bhagavad-gita lessons. This stuff wasn't available. You had to go. That's why they were like, oh, there's somebody there. You go there and you get 1 chapter. It's like, I got 1 chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. Amazing. I got, and that was incredible. You're so fortunate. We're so fortunate. We have everything at the tip of our fingers. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's a great blessing. And we're like, if we don't make use of this, we're the most foolish people ever to walk on earth, because we have so much available to us. So he like, okay, let me hear it then. So he heard, and they had good memory, so they could memorize these. So he heard the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. And thereafter, he engaged in daily reciting the 6th chapter. And in course of time, a flower airplane arrived and took him to Vaikuntha. Meanwhile, the great sage who was reciting the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita daily went to Vaikuntha as well, where he engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Sri Vishnu. Anyone who recites the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita will very soon attain service to the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu. Of this, there is no doubt. So that's it for today. That's the nice story of the power of the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I hope you enjoyed that. Have a rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love.